This training module is produced by the Provincial Emergency Radio Communications Service, or PERCS, which is one of the public safety volunteer lifelines affiliated with the BC Provincial Emergency Program. Sending messages by amateur radio using radiograms. Why send a radiogram? Amateur radio has a long history of providing communication support during emergencies and disasters. If regular communication methods such as cell phone and email have been cut off, amateur radio operators can pass messages using their radios. Sometimes, the person you want to reach may be in a rural location or is out of cell phone coverage. Amateur radio operators use similar radiograms around the world. There are no compatibility issues when using the PERCS radiogram since they were designed to be compatible. This means uniform methods of passing messages are used on the amateur radio national traffic system. As a member of an emergency response management team, you need basic knowledge of radio message handling to ensure that the information communicated can be passed accurately to its intended recipient. So who sends radiograms for us? Volunteer amateur radio operators can be found passing messages at Provincial Regional Emergency Operations Centers, Emergency Operations Centers, Incident Command Posts, and other facilities. Organizationally, the Communications Unit comes under the IT branch in the Logistics section. The radio station manager, usually a volunteer, reports to the IT branch coordinator on all matters regarding the readiness and operation of the station. The Operations section is responsible for incoming and outgoing messages. This is the radiogram that you will use to write your message on. This form has been modified to support processes within a PREOC or EOC. The area of the radiogram which you will use is the message body. There are other areas of the form with a gray background. These areas are only to be used by a radio operator. Now to the specifics of a radiogram. In radio communications, precedence establishes the priority of the message. Emergency is for any message having life or death urgency to any person or group of persons. Priority is the classification for important messages having a specific time limit, official messages not covered by the emergency category, press dispatches, and emergency-related traffic not of the utmost urgency. It can be used for notices of death or injury in a disaster area. In disaster situations, routine traffic will be handled last or not at all if circuits are busier with higher precedence traffic. All non-emergency traffic would be considered routine. Welfare traffic is not normally used in a PREOC environment. It is grayed out on a radiogram and will only be used by operators who are asked to relay a message which has the welfare precedence. The approval to transmit area of a radiogram must contain the initials of the operations section chief or their designate. Radio operators are trained to not accept any message that does not contain the authorized person's initials. The rest of the radiogram form is self-explanatory. The To field indicates who the message needs to be communicated to. Include the recipient's organization and contact information. Why? The last mile may be a telephone call. The text of the message must be entered 1 word per line. This is to ensure that the message clerk or radio operator can count the number of words of the message and enter a check number in the appropriate field. It is a form of manual error correction and ensures that every word of the message is accounted for. The originator fields are important to fill out completely to ensure that you receive a return message from the recipient. Punctuation. Don't use periods, commas, or semicolons as there's no provision to send them via radio. Only use hyphens when required, and when you do use them, they are considered as a single word in the word count. Instead of using a period at the end of a sentence, use the letter X as in X-ray. Note that an X is considered a word during the word count. You'll notice that in this example we use the number 500, but do not use an X at the end of a message. Written messages virtually ensure accuracy compared to spoken messages. Key message rules. Every word in your message should assist in accurately conveying your message. Keep your message as brief as possible without losing the full meaning of the message. Make your point as understandable and free of ambiguity as possible. Remember, a radio operator must read your message on air, and another operator must write down what they hear. Try to structure your message to use the imperative rather than being worded as a question. So instead of writing, "How many beds do you have?" consider writing, "Advise number of beds." In disasters, messages don't have to be polite, they need to be accurate and efficient. Brevity is important because the standard radiogram can only contain 25 words. Here is an example. This is a lengthy sentence and has a word count of 26. The message should be sent as, "Two persons require shelter. Advise location." Note that X is considered a word during the word count, but do not use an X at the end of a message. This is a much more efficient message, only using 7 words. Understandability. You may need a radio operator to transmit information they will not understand. That should not prevent its accuracy of transmission. Make sure your point is as understandable and free of ambiguity as possible. Recapping. It is important to print your message clearly. Use plain language whenever possible. Do not use pleasantries such as "please" or "could you." Reread your message before handing it off. Do you understand what the message says? All outgoing radiograms will be passed to the operations section for approval to send. Then they will pass your message to the message clerk or the radio operator for transmission. The reverse will happen when there is an incoming message. It is received by the radio operator, transcribed to a radiogram, and given to the message clerk, who documents it and passes it directly to the operations section at the EOC or pre-op. The operations section is responsible for forwarding the message within the EOC or pre-op to the intended recipient. This concludes the online training session for radiograms. As you can see, by filling out this form correctly and following a few simple guidelines, messages will flow much quicker and more accurately. For more information, please contact your pre-op radio station manager, regional emergency radio representative, or your municipal emergency radio coordinator. Thank you.